Good morning, it's Jay Higgins. Do I need to register or am I already here as a applicant or agent?
Good morning, Jay. No, you do not have to register. We're just waiting
Thank
for
you.
nine.
This is Stephanie Stark, the chair. We're just waiting for a couple of people before we begin. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is the Agricultural Preserve Advisory Committee meeting, and it is 9:02 a.m., February 13th, 2025. Welcome. We're going to start the meeting right now, and could we get a roll call, please?
Good morning. So we're going to start with Sergio Ricardo.
Here.
Stephanie Stark.
Here.
David Lackey.
Here.
Royce Larson.
Here.
And then Royce Larson is joining us remotely. And then Alex will be here momentarily.
Okay. And we all have county council joining us momentarily as well. Okay. So we have a quorum. Going down our agenda, is there anyone here today from the public who'd like to speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Close public comment. Let's consider the minutes. We have two sets of minutes. The first one we will take separate motions on, but the first set of minutes, let's look at the January 9th, 2025 minutes. Are there any comments, corrections, or suggested edits on those?
Madam Chair and David, I'm not sure if this is the meeting that you called to order. So it says meeting called to order by Chair Stephanie Stark. I believe that one was called to order by David, if I'm not mistaken. You remember that, David? I think, Madam, you were just running a little late, Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Okay.
So we'll make the correction to call the meeting to order was by David Lackey. Thank you, Sergio. And I also wanted to point out under committee members present, it has both my name and Matthew Mayton. I don't believe he was at the meeting. He's my alternate. Any other comments? From committee members? Okay.
Nope.
David?
I'll make a motion that we approve the January 9th minutes as amended.
Do we
Second?
have a second?
Is that
Yeah,
right?
second.
Yes.
Sorry, Bryce, to cut you off.
Thanks. No, no problem.
And then we'll do roll call. Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
The vote carries 4-0 to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. So our second set of minutes is from it's from the January 30th, 2025 meeting. This was the special meeting we had to discuss the PowerPoint presentation.
Madam Chair, my only comment on this agenda is the time. It's missing the time, and I'm thinking we did start right at 1. If we just add 1 p.m. to that.
Very good. And let's see, okay, and that's right, Royce was not at that meeting. Okay, any other comments from committee members?
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of January 30th as amended.
I will second.
And then we'll do roll call. Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
I need to abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Vote carries 3-0. No.
Don't believe we have, I voted, yes, there's 3, sorry, yes.
Vote carries to approve the minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we have a pretty short agenda today. We have 2 items that are both new items to consider. Is there anyone here today who would like to continue an item that is listed on the agenda? And if so, if you could state your name and request for the continuance and when you would like to continue the item until, which meeting would you like to go to?
Chair Stark, I was emailed by Agent Morgan that they would like to continue item number 2 to the March hearing. They are still working on the request that was requested by the committee.
I guess, Chair, I would suggest we just address that when we get to that point in the regular agenda, if you're okay with that.
Yes, so let's go ahead and keep that item on the agenda, and then we'll address that when we get to that item. Thank you. All right. No other requests to continue. Okay, perfect. So with that, we have our first item, which I'll read into the record. This is for the Nature Farm Ag LLC, Ag Employee Dwelling. This is a contract number 69 AP 062. And this case planner for the county is Tatiana Cruz, and they are requesting a 1,434 square foot ag employee dwelling. So the committee will be considering the dwelling as well as consistency of the contract with the uniform rules. Is there anyone here today who'd like to represent the project and would like to provide the committee with an overview? And is it
My name is
case
Jay
plan-
Higgins, representing the owner. And just couple questions for you before my client and the owner and the operator should be present either in a waiting room or maybe they're not registered as a official panelist. Will Crummer and Eli Lopez may be there somewhere. And then second, I'm not familiar with the virtual protocol for this group. I normally come in person. So do you all put a site plan up on the screen
Yes.
that we're sharing, or how does it work?
Yes, we will put up the site plan that was provided in the packet, pre-meeting packet. Teresa will pull that up for us.
Okay, great. Well, I see Eli there now, and so we can
Okay.
start and Eli can jump in.
Yes, and if I could
to-
ask, is Tatiana here or somebody from the county representing the case?
I do not see the planner online.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we have the site plan up. I don't know if you can see it on your end, but it is viewable to the committee on the
Do
screen.
not
So,
see it. Well, something's happened. Okay, now I see it.
okay, very good.
So, yeah,
So just let us
I'll be
know
brief.
a brief overview of what you're being proposed and anything else you'd like the committee to discuss. Thank you.
It's a mobile home, and it's sort of within context of the county's ag employee dwelling unit program. The property in the 80s and for some time thereafter received a conditional use permit, which was the requirement at the time for mobile homes. And there were two that were allowed and permitted and built. At that time or thereafter, there was the renewal requirement every 5 years. And so that got missed somewhere along the lines. And so those units went away. And so we're trying to get back to at least the 2 units plus the main residence. There is a main residence. I don't know if you want to zoom in, but I can kind of try to talk and point at the same time with verbally. Do it again.
Yes, please do. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, sure. You see there at the entrance to the property, there's a parking area. I should make sure you're aware this was a thoroughly vetted cannabis entitlement, and so that's the reason for the parking area. As you go north on the entrance road off of Santa Rosa, there's a series of water storage tanks and some, I'll say, ag infrastructure there. That's about where we're proposing to put the new unit. And you can see further north of the water tanks, which is just adjacent east of the parking area. You'll continue north a little bit and pick up an existing drive aisle that continues north. I'll just talk about what else is on the property really quick as you either take that road or continue on the main both of those are existing roadways, but you could go either kind of veering off to the east in between, which is the first structure you get to on the left, or the west is the main residence. That's been there for a long time. And then adjacent east of the access road is a mobile home that was permitted as an ADU fairly recently. As you continue north, you get into the main kind of compound, which has a big barn. And to the west of that is a little office building, some additional parking. And it is currently, they're currently cultivating cannabis. So back to our proposed location adjacent to the water infrastructure. There's some grade that's reflected there. Maybe you can zoom in a little, one more level. Right there, number
Is that
one, new
sufficient?
proposed house. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. It just reflects a little bit of grade difference. It drops pretty substantially beyond where the unit is proposed to where you get to and then the grade flattens out further when you get to the existing home and the other ADU/mobile home. So We think it's the right location next to some of the other infrastructure, et cetera, and pretty close to the access road. So beyond that, I don't, I can field some questions for you, no pun intended. And we can just handle some of those questions if you have them. It's a very basic mobile home unit. It'll be an HCD official unit that'll meet the standards in the code.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Higgins, for that overview. Just wanted to make a note that county council is here. Thank you, Tyler. Hi. Okay, so are there any questions or comments from committee members?
Yes, Madam Chair. My first question is if I see that the property was acquired by Nature Farm in May of 23, but I didn't see an assumption of the contract by Ag. I'm sorry, by Nature Farm Ag LLC. Do you know, Mr. Higgins, if an assumption was recorded? May have missed it.
I don't have an answer to that. I didn't pull a title report, and I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you, Sergio. One other comment too is on the, just on the agenda, this contract 69 AP 062. It does consist of the one parcel, but it is missing APN 083150010. So the two parcels together make up the premises of the contract. So it's actually a much larger contract than that additional APN was about 50.44 acres. So
Correct.
wanted to point that out. So we have a prime,
Yeah, that's correct.
non-prime
That's
contract.
correct. There
Okay.
were two APNs associated with, I think, one big lot, but
Yes. Okay. And I think, David, did you have a comment or question? Go ahead.
Maybe initially for Sergio. So do we know if the owner has submitted their Williamson Act annual survey for this property or this contract?
Excuse me. Thank you, David, for that question. Yes, they submitted one last year. The new questionnaires went out at the end of last month in January, and I don't see a response to the new questionnaire, but they did submit one last year.
Sergio, is there a deadline for those questionnaires or a request
Yes,
submittal
the
date?
deadline that we've established on the letter is March 15th.
Okay, so they still have some time. Thank you.
So yeah, that would just be a reminder for the owners to fill out and complete the survey. If it didn't arrive or misplaced something, you can contact the assessor's office.
Absolutely,
Get a
yes.
replacement.
So yes, the
Sorry?
Mr. Higgins, did you kind of catch that, what the surveyor was saying about
But
the
did
annual
you-
questionnaire?
Yeah, if you could, I didn't catch if there's a deadline. I'm sure there is. What's the deadline?
March 15th?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And as far as the agriculture on the property, I know you've discussed cannabis. Could you provide us just acreage calculations of production agriculture? Any other commercial ag?
To defer to Will or Eli, it's probably 60 range acres, but Will or Eli, can you?
Yeah, so we're growing about 50 acres on the ranch,
All cannabis?
all cannabis.
Okay.
So Mr. Higgins, I had a couple of questions just on the makeup of the existing structure. So you said there's the one, I guess on this map, it's shown as box number 10, the existing residence. And then to the east of that is the mobile home that I believe you said was permitted as an ADU. Were either of those existing structures occupied by ag employees currently?
Yeah, so the two houses on the property, they're both being occupied by employees that work on the ranch.
Okay, and then similarly, for the new proposed ag employee, obviously that'll be additional housing for employees.
Correct. Yeah, we have a handful of employees that work at the ranch full time, so that's the plan is so in total we'll have 3 for the employees there.
So I didn't see in our packet sort of the typically kind of the list of duties and responsibilities of those ag employees that are occupying the dwellings and also the proposed new dwelling. Was that provided to planning and development as far as the permit?
Yeah, that was. I think that we had submitted that to Tatiana, but there was an application showing proof of employment and the job description of that employee. I know we had filled out that paperwork and submitted it probably, it's actually a while ago. I think that was months ago.
Okay. Yeah, I assume they would follow up if that hadn't been submitted.
My understanding of that, Mr. Lackey, is correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of a prior to occupancy of the unit, or might be prior to building permit. I couldn't remember, but we can definitely get it current and at the right time pursuant to the chapter 35.
And maybe just so you can, I mean, it's probably something that we wouldn't necessarily hold up since it's probably the P&D are going to have to confirm that anyhow as far as their permitting of the new ag employee dwelling. But as far as that new ag employee dwelling, can you generally describe what activities those employees either currently do or will be doing? Do you have that information?
Yeah, so in one of the houses, the original homestead, it's one of our main irrigators. So he lives there, and with irrigation, it's good. You want to always have someone on the ranch. Things come up day to day. In the ADU, the existing, I think on the map, it shows number 11, mobile home. That's our head grower. So he oversees the ranch operations. And in the new ADU, we have someone who works for our company. Their name is Wilson, and they just oversee general farming operations. There's a lot of stuff with the cannabis requirements, with cameras and signing people into the property and signing out. And so he mainly oversees the cannabis specific regulations that we need to be taken care of.
I know as far as the entrance and certainly as far as the approval, you have security on the property, but none of the employee housing is for security personnel. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, the guy who lives in or who we have proposed to live in the new house, he that's one of the things that he oversees because seasonally we do have security on the property. But he doesn't necessarily actually do security.
He manages that function, but he's not a security personnel. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from committee members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Higgins, at least the information I have is the total property is 134 acres. And you mentioned 50 acres are in cannabis. What's the other 84 acres?
So it's mainly riverbed, because the property it extends across the San Ynez River. So a large portion of that is just fallow land, as a buffer between the farm and the river, and the river. There's also, Santa Rosa Road. It's somewhat of a hilly area. So there's a portion of the ranch just on steep hillside.
Yeah, off to the west is kind of a riparian area. There's quite a bit of territory there that in between Santa Rosa Road and where you can farm that's chewed up by slope and riparian buffers, etc.
We're
So-
trying to pull up a aerial map on our end so you can see that. Just hang tight.
Okay, so, but there's no other like grazing or other kinds of agriculture then?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at least right at this time, there is some additional acreage that we could do some other ag activities. For the most part, it's been fallow. But we've grown, little vegetable projects and other things like that. But no other serious production that we've been doing so far.
You're seeing is, I'll say, if you can follow me, kind of 4 sections of greenhouses. I'm sorry, hoop houses. Starting from the east is 1, 2, moving right there west, and 3. That would be the third. Those 3 are part of our subject parcel. Further to the west is a different lot entirely, but also something that is farmed by Will and owned.
Yeah, it's also part of the contract. So when APAC looks at all the items that come on the agenda, we're looking at the eligibility of the entire contract, and the premises is to the west.
As Mr. Higgins said, the northern portion of both of these parcels are within the riverbed. This is Google Earth, so we don't have the parcels, but it does extend to the north. So that's a lot of the remaining contracted acreage.
That area that's to the south of the houses, the hoop houses or the greenhouses, is that open field production? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's open field. For the most part, it's been fallow. You can see we did a little planting there where you can see the black. Those are mulch beds. But it's mostly fallow. And then if you move the mouse up a little bit, it's right in that. If you go down, it's basically right in that area is where the new house is proposed. So the goal was just to kind of put it right up in that compound area. Yeah, it basically would go right about where the mouse is now.
Thank you. Royce, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. I also had a question just about the cannabis. Is there any retail sales on the property related to the cannabis?
No, there's not. So on the property, we just do cultivation. So basically, as soon as the crop is harvested, it gets shipped same day off the property.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I just want to pause for a moment, see if there's anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this item.
Chair Stark, we do not have any public comment.
Okay, thank you. Close public comment. And just a quick question, in our packet from planning development was, looks like something from Acela, it was just some case notes about a violation. Is there anything here, David, that we need to consider?
I don't think on our end, as far as APAC is
Yes,
concerned, I think
okay.
that's probably the permit pathway. I mean, it's a 24 case, so I'm assuming it's related to rectify that is the application that they have before us
Okay.
for the
Okay.
employee dwelling.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or discussion from committee?
Yes, Madam Chair. I think this is more of a question for the committee. In the past, we have made it a requirement to see the actual W-2s for the employees, especially when you have employee dwellings. So my question is if this particular case requires the committee to receive that. That's one question. The other question is for Mr. Higgins. Just want to confirm, you mentioned the new employee dwelling is going to be an ADU. Is that correct? Is that or is it just a separate?
excuse me, under the land use code, we're proposing it as an ag employee dwelling unit, not an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure because one
On
of
your first
the,
question,
Yep.
I didn't go through I mean, I saw in the updated uniform rules, there was some new information about AEDs. Um, but if there is something in there with respect to W-2s that need to be before your committee, we can certainly do that. My familiarity is from the zoning code. If you don't have the unit yet built or at least permitted, you may not know who that person is. And so I think that's why they structure the code that you can do that at a later date.
Yeah, I
But
think
just let us know.
I think that it might need to be submitted at a later date, but we did already go ahead and submit all of the paperwork and the W-2 of the person that we had in mind who'd be living here. So we did submit all of that information to planning.
okay. And the W-2 is just a form of uh, evidence to demonstrate that this is an employee. And, you know, sometimes if there's no W-2s, then we typically ask for a written list of the duties for that employee.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have provided both of those, both the written duties and the W-2 to planning.
So I think, Sergio, that's kind of, I mean, it's unfortunate that Tatiana wasn't available to attend today's meeting, but so, and from the owner's statement that they did submit that information, and they are required for, certainly for the verification that ag employees are still occupying the existing structures, as well as at some point in time, they'll need to submit the W-2s per the zoning ordinance for recording the new ag employee dwelling. So yes, typically we have also then received redacted information on the W-2s and a list of the duties of the ag employees.
Perhaps we could entertain a motion that's just contingent upon planner verification, something like that. That way, that's what I was thinking too. If the planner was here, they could verify that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then as far as my question about the ADU classification, which now I know it's not really an ADU for this new proposed dwelling, that was because under some rules, the ADUs have to be part of the personal use envelope. And I don't see that personal use envelope is clear on the plan. Maybe it's on a different page. Do you know, Mr. Higgins, did you draw the personal use envelope on any of your plans?
Oh, not yet. If we need to do that, we can. I don't believe that was a requirement when we went through the ADU process with the
Right.
county.
Yeah, and this is for compliance purposes. The APAC committee, we look at, we try to make sure that the 2-acre maximum is not exceeded. So for that reason I personally think it's important to see that on the plans.
Okay, so with that, we want to have this item come back then if we need to, or we'd have to have 2 planner verifications.
That would be my preference.
Okay.
Pending what you guys think. One of the items we still want to see is the assumption of the contract as well.
So, Chair Stark, Tatiana said she'll be jumping on in just a second if you want to.
You can go to who's ever working Google Earth there. You got to hit the polygon. There you go.
Sorry, what was that?
I was just given some tips on Google Earth. It just looks like
Oh.
somebody's trying to get a dimension of the area.
Oh, that's David, yeah. Thank you, Teresa. Teresa, our assistant has informed us that Tatiana Cruz will be joining us shortly to, maybe she can answer some questions.
Hi
Okay.
there, this is Tatiana, the sign planner. I'm on now. I'm sorry I missed the
Oh,
questions, but could you please
Yeah,
repeat?
thank you. Just to get you up to speed, we were provided with an overview. The committee just had a couple questions that perhaps we can get answered in this meeting today. One of the questions was, let's start with the assumption. Do you happen to know if the property owner has assumed the contract? As per the assessor's office, that's a requirement in the uniform rules.
I think someone from the owner team or one of the owners was going to join, but no, I'm not sure. I can double check in our file right now, but I don't have that handy, and I'm not sure whether or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
The,
so hey, Tatiana, this is Will speaking. If you don't have that handy, after this, I could give you a call and we could get you whatever contract information that they need.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
'cause there was like
assessor
a
in-
2022 some contract that I think might be what we're looking for.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I thought this project had like a recent contract thing. No, I'm not finding it right now.
Okay, thank you. The assessor's records does not show an assumption, so
Oh,
that's the
okay.
reason for the question.
Just to clarify for the owner, it's an actual application that you'll need to submit to assume the ag preserve contract. And then, so you apply with planning and development. I think there's a fee, and then that contract gets reviewed with council and the owner, essentially because the contract's run with the property. And so the assumption is to make the new owner aware of the contract requirements and obligations. And so it's a separate process. And so the Tatiana can show you the application forms for that. That would be something that we would encourage you to do soon.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm free right after this, so I'll give Tatiana a call and we'll get that contract filled out.
Thank you. The other question was, the committee had some discussions about what has been submitted so far in terms of justification for the existing, there's two existing agricultural employee dwellings, my understanding is, and then there's one that's requested, so it's a total of 3. And one of the things the committee looks at when we're reviewing ag employee dwellings is just the verification, a demonstrated need. So has there been any W-2s and/or descriptions of what the employees would be doing to support the agriculture on the property?
Okay, so for me, I think require certain forms like the W-2s to be provided, I think within like 30 days of occupancy. So that's a form that we don't have yet, but there is, you know, like ag uses on the property. And I think that's something that's, like pretty like standard for people to, show with these like larger ag zoned parcels that have ag, and then we would require like those forms of proof within 30 days as part of our like permit conditions of approval.
Yeah, so Tatiana, we had already submitted that paperwork to you. If we need to do it again within 30 days, that's fine. We'll re-forward that to you.
Mhm. Yeah, if you have them, that's something we ask for like prior to permit issuance. So not something that we like necessarily need right away, but if you have them, you could forward those to me as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I think, was there an additional question, committee members, for Tatiana?
Not necessarily for Tatiana. I was just going to, maybe, Teresa could, I'm not sure if because I just did a very crude polygon showing the area around the existing residence and the ADU. And that's only, 0.77 acres. And so they're allowed, up to 2 acres for this. So I think either way, they clearly meet that. And then, the rule in the uniform rules for the ADU is that the ADU structure is allowed, but it has to be clustered in clustered proximity to the principal dwelling. So in this case, it is. And so that's
Okay,
not a problem.
perfect. So I think the only things on the table are the assumption and the verification of the, maybe the W-2. It's a timing issue. So the committee could do a motion contingent upon planner verification of the assumption of the contract, and also that the demonstrated need for the farm employee dwelling. We could make a motion that would allow the applicant to move forward and not come back to the committee, or we could have them come back to the committee. So
I'm okay with the, moving forward with the.
contingent, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I would probably maybe add just also, I mean, I guess the planner could also verify that the owner had submitted the Williamson Act.
Yes,
survey.
I agree. So how about entertain a motion to approve contract, let me make my motion here. Approve the request regarding construction of a farm employee dwelling, an agricultural employee dwelling. And eligible,
Want me to-
go ahead, David. I was going to try to get the contract in there.
So I'll build upon what you said. So yeah, that the APAC find the request for agriculture employee dwelling consistent with the uniform rules, contingent upon planning and development verifying occupancy of the proposed dwellings by ag employees, and contingent upon the landowner submitting application for assumption of the ag preserve contract and confirmation that the owner has submitted the annual Williamson Act survey
Questionnaire, yeah.
or questionnaire. And then the motion also finds contract 69 AP 062 meets ongoing eligibility requirements.
Perfect. Thank you. Second,
Well, second.
roll call, please.
So we'll start with Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Royce Larson.
Aye.
The vote carries 4-0.
Great. Thank you. Any
For you, Madam
questions? Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Higgins.
Yeah, sorry. So we're not coming back to you.
Correct.
We're
You're not
just-
coming back. There's planner verification. We structured the motion so that you would not have to come back. We're looking for those 3 things. We're looking for the
And,
questionnaire submitted, the assumption of the
P-
contract.
will P&D will be the arbiter of that, or do we
Yes.
submit something
Yes.
directly to? Okay. Thank you.
Correct. Tatiana, were there any questions on your end about the motion that we made or what's expected?
No, I got that down. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate your participation.
Have a good
Thank you,
weekend.
guys.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks.
Brings us to the second item, which is the Convenia Vineyard Estate LLC. And this is for the committee to consider the ongoing eligibility of the property as an ag preserve contract. And this is for assessor parcel number 141460012. It's contract number 77 AP 032. And this case was part of a larger proposed project that came to the committee regarding special events. Starting back in September 2024, it had come several times. And last month, we bifurcated, made a motion to bifurcate the two so that we approved the special events proposal. And then now we're looking strictly at the ongoing eligibility of the contract. Particularly, we're requesting an increase in planted acreage for production agriculture. That was one of our biggest concerns. And we provided details at our last minutes, which I will read into the record here. Yes, it is. The committee voted to continue consideration of the contract to today's meeting to provide an opportunity for the applicant to provide additional planting plan and site plan for meeting the commercial ag production requirements. So we have the property up on Google Earth. Is there anyone here today representing the project that would like to have a few comments to say? I know that they have asked through email to continue the item to the March meeting.
We do not have anybody online for this project.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think we didn't get anything in the packet, and the request from the owner is to continue the item for the next month. So committee members, any thoughts?
I'm
Madam
okay with the,
Chair.
oh, go ahead, Royce.
Go ahead, Royce.
It seems like this gets continued every time. I'm just wondering, should we, instead of next month, go 2 months out? I don't know if that's an option. I just, give them time to get what they need to get back to us.
Has I want to ask, has any committee members had any ex parte communications with the applicant, agent, anyone representing the case? Okay, no. So Royce, you're thinking perhaps maybe a 2-month extension?
I just wondering that.
Yes.
It's gone on and on and on, so.
And actually, Royce, I thought you were gonna go to the other way. This keeps going on, and maybe we should make a finding to. Yeah, it's always been my position that I would rather get a process going, and then if the applicant can change that, that determination, then they can at a future. They do have time. There's plenty of time to come back after we make a finding, or we make a my finding. So anyway, but that's me. That's my opinion. I would prefer that we move forward and do, vote on an action today. But I'm also okay with the rest of the committee members. I know that in the past we've always been lenient and go with the requests for continuance. So I'm okay if you guys want to continue this another month.
Thank you, Sergio. David, looks like you're about to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm probably in between both Royce and Sergio. I was going to say that I'm okay with this request for continuance to March, but I do concur that the entirety of the contract discussion has been occurring since September, and each meeting, well, there's always been the issue of compliance with the commercial ag production requirements. And I guess I'm okay with the continuance also because this is the first month after we, supported a bifurcation to give them time to come back with the planting plan. And so, and I agree with Sergio's statement that, in the past, we want to keep ag properties that are doing ag in the program. And so we want to try to provide opportunities to get them into compliance. But equally, at some point, if they're non-responsive, I think that is a point in time that the committee would need to decide whether or not they believe that, there hasn't been effort to comply, and therefore that could be an option. At what point that happens, I guess that's a continuing discussion for the committee, but at this point, I would support the 1-month continuance.
I agree. I think supporting 1 month would be adequate. I'd rather do that than 2 months, actually. And what I had heard at the last meeting was just also a disagreement in how the calculations are made from the applicants, or it was a representative from the project felt they were in disagreement of how the committee considers when there's land that is not able to go into agricultural production. So fallow or just not land or sensitive sites and things like that. So, but given all that, I think a month, and I think we could entertain a motion to continue this item for the following month till the March meeting to allow the applicant time to provide the committee with a planting plan. I would restate it in the motion, a planting plan. And what was the other phrase? Planting plan and site plan and planting plan.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
We'll second.
And then we'll do roll call. Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark.
Aye.
David Lackey.
That's what I was going to say.
Pause it.
Yeah, let's pause. Anyone here like to speak on this project?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to announce that I'm arrived.
Yes.
Sorry for being late.
That's okay. Welcome.
I'll recuse myself.
Okay. So we have Alex recusing himself.
We do not have any
Motion.
public comment.
And no public comment. I close public comment. Go ahead, David. Vote. Aye. David votes aye.
And then Royce Larson.
Aye.
And the vote carries 4-0.
Yes, with Alex as
With
the
Alex recused.
recusing. Okay. Perfect. Motion carries. Thank you. So that we'll see you, well, hopefully we'll see the applicant and the planner. We don't have a planner. Thank you. The applicant here the following month. All right, that takes us to our last item, which is a continued item, and it's item number 3. And I just wanted to mention that we have some folks here today, are one of our supports from County Council, would like to, if we could have this meeting as just be as concise as possible in terms of the length of the meeting. So I just wanted to mention that. I think we're pretty far along with our presentation to the board. We had a lot of comments at the last meeting, so that we're coming back. This is after our special meeting we had at the end of January. So I incorporated all the comments, and hopefully we can come to agreement on any additional comments and edits to the presentation.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
As we look at the first slide,
Yes.
just a thought, after giving me a break, looking at this, would a title Williamson Act presentation be better than Williamson Act overview? I know it's just, I know it's not a big deal. I'm okay with overview. But it is actually a Williamson Act presentation. And
Okay.
it's just,
Any other thoughts from committee members?
get us started here.
I chose overview based on, I looked at other presentations, actually.
And I'm okay with overview. I mean, I was just,
Okay.
again, thought that.
Yeah, thank you for the comment.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention and thank, a shout out to Sergio. He and I have spent, I'd say, hours on the edits on the side as our ad hoc subcommittee. And so what you see before you today as a result of Sergio and I working together based on comments received at during our special meeting. And thank you, David. You provided an additional slide that focused on the non-renewal process. So with that, I think maybe we can go through one by one the slides and see if anybody has any comments. Thank you for joining us, Alex. All right, let's go ahead. Let's do this page last. We'll revisit number 2 if we can, because I'd like to get into the content, and then we can consider reordering, reshuffling the deck, and also address after the reshuffle, then we can look at the table of contents if that's acceptable to committee members. Okay. All right, so this is the first slide, history of the Williamson Act. Any comments on this one? We included a slide or a graph that just depicts the acreages in Williamson Act. And thank you to Sergio's team for putting that together.
Madam Chair and other members, just one possible comment.
Yes.
Under the purpose of the long term, the second bullet contributes to the county's economy and availability of food. Should we also put in there, or maybe it's not even needed, but open space, there's more than just the food that this preserves is my point. And maybe we don't need to put that because just about every contract has to do with ag, growing of some kind of ag, so.
Yes, sorry. Thank you for that comment. So your suggestion is instead of putting just availability of food, but putting open space, and you could even add recreation to that. Food or fiber. Yeah, I tried to be brief, but we can add that as well, availability of food, or I could just say, trying to weigh number of words. Keep it brief, but I could certainly say that verbally too.
Okay. And maybe it's not needed thinking more about it, but I just know that that's part of the uniform roles is open space and recreation and.
Yes. Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
perhaps it should be part of the main bullet. Purpose is the long-term conservation of agriculture and open space. Conservation of agriculture and open space land.
Okay. So you're saying
Yeah.
in the upper bullet there.
Yeah, so yeah, the second bullet.
Okay. So I'll put agriculture and open space.
I
Space
like
land.
that.
Okay. I could put under, this is just an idea to yours, so I could put after economy, start another bullet and put availability of food, open space, recreation, something like that. That way, because we do have, I don't get into that in the presentation, the different types of contracts, but I could certainly do that. So where it says, it would show purpose of long-term conservation of agriculture and open space. And then I would have maybe a third bullet under the purpose that says, second bullet would say contributes to county's economy, break, another bullet, and then put availability of food, fiber, open space, and recreation, something like that. Okay. Any other comments on that suggestion?
I'll leave it up to you as far as the wording, I guess, you could either be limiting to stating some of the objectives of the Williamson Act as a higher level. I think some of the other, I would say the second bullet gets into other kind of policy reasons why the board continues to support has these other benefits. And so that are certainly valid, but if you wanted to just keep it very focused in terms of the objectives of what the Williamson Act achieves, then you could just focus on that if you wanted to.
So are you suggesting to keep it not add a third bullet? I was trying to understand what you're,
Or just in the materials, I sent you some materials, and there might be some other materials of another statement that aligns more closely with the objective of the Williamson Act. I think that my just take on that second sub-bullet is it dips more into the other values for the program that are in the uniform rules or the county's policy reason to continue the program. But as I said, either way, I think it's a good general statement.
okay.
My other comment was just the graph. Thank you, Sergio, for your team pulling together that information. But if I was a board member, I was saying, well, what are some of the reasons that led to that dip, from and the reduction? And I mean, I know that one of my assumptions is that some of that reduction is like Bishop Ranch, because they had, over 10,000 acres under contract that they gradually got out of. And then eventually, the property was sold, but, or not Bishop Ranch, Bixby.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, I guess in general, there, we could say that, there were several large land holdings that over time had, an example, Bixby Ranch is one of those. It doesn't account for all of it, but it's at least one good example.
Yes, and now you're bringing up a thought I had today, which is I would like to suggest that this committee has another special meeting where we just address the talking points of each slide. I think that'd be very helpful. I'm thinking I'd like to get this off to the department heads that are interested in seeing it. And I think it'd be good to have, once we get the slides set, have another meeting where we actually focus hitting certain points in the notes that are discussed in the presentation. I don't know what time we would do that, but I just wanted to mention that. So if you have like things like what David had said, I think that'd be really a valid point and something to bring up at like a special meeting. I think that would help make today's task a little bit more streamlined. Does that make sense?
Great.
Okay, thank
I
you.
was also thinking with this slide, typical question is how much out of the entire county acreage or square miles is this, or what percentage of the county total assessed parcels, for example, or
Is it answered in maybe the future slide with the map?
probably,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
It's just to have it
Yep,
in your pocket.
yeah, it was absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments on this slide? Wording, graph itself, too dark, too light? I was thinking it might be kind of light colored, but it seems like it shows up okay.
Your last bullet, your talking point, you're going to say the current acres, the 505,000.
Right. Okay. Next slide, please. So this is where just,
Can just move to
Yeah.
the next slide if
Yeah.
anybody asks.
okay. Yeah, exactly. I left the statistics up there. Originally we had the percentage, but I have that in my notes. I think it was like 68, or maybe I had it in my notes. I think it's 68%, something like that. It changed a little bit. It was 510. Now it's 505.
Yeah.
But
So that was the statistics that I got from our GIS
Yes.
mapping. It's a percentage of the ag zone
yes,
incorporated.
Right.
land.
right. So it
It's not
doesn't.
all the unincorporated lands, but it's big,
Yeah.
basically the eligible
Zoned.
ag zone.
Oh, too. I mean, I thought, of the entire geographical.
I guess the point that one of the reasons that our department uses that comparison is because, it's agricultural land uses on
Could
ag
act.
zone that could potentially, and so it shows a high percentage of participation.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good, something I'll make a note for in when we have our meeting for the notes section for the presentation. Thoughts on the map? Thank you again to the assessor team for putting this together. One thought I had is the size of the legend is teeny tiny. And I will go through in my notes about the color, but perhaps we need to make that a little bit bigger. I don't know.
Kind of agree with Alex's comment to maybe if there's no questions, just go to the next slide right away.
Okay. All right. Williamson Act Land 101. Any comments on this one? Okay.
I was thinking maybe it's not necessary, maybe it's just one of your talking points. But the last bullet about the subvention payment, I don't know if you want to
Total
show that
amount.
here in the total.
I was going to say it in the amount. The last subvention fund we received was whatever, 600,000, something like that. Yep. That's in my notes. Are we okay with the 101 in quotes? Does that look strange? Is that a flag for anybody?
It's good.
Okay. Next. I had somebody make a comment about this under ag preserve requirements, the third, under second bullet, assume the contract. Question was, why is that in quotes? And I said, well, that's kind of a term we use. And they said, maybe use a different term. So we could say something like transfer the. Right. Yes, it is correct. And the comment was, well, the board may not like quotes. That might be confusing to them. You could put something else. So if you think I should. Okay, yes, okay. Any thoughts? And I could put transfer and say transfer means is that we use the legal term assume the contract. I can't remember if I use it later on in the presentation.
Why not just take out the quotation marks?
I could do that too. Any thoughts?
Bold or caps or whatever. I mean, if you,
I would just take it out of quotes.
I guess 2 comments. So I guess the landowner agrees. So once they enter into a contract, I would say it's the second and third bullets first. What you have as the first bullet for the assume the contract really only applies if there's a new ownership. And so I think that's a variation of lead with that one. I would move that down to the bottom bullet.
Okay. And okay, so put that at the bottom. I think I'll just drop the quotes. And I could say, I could just describe a little bit about what it means to assume, but it'll lead with maintain ongoing eligibility.
Yeah, I think in your talking points, you could say, the contracts run with the land. So if the land is sold, the new owner is required to assume.
Huh? Okay. Very good. Next. Okay.
Sorry, can we go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to dip too far into the, talking
Notes.
points because
Remember, we're gonna have a separate meeting. for
right.
that.
But it may
Just like-
relate to, so for the uniform rules, it'd be good, it's probably a talking point, but it may be a first bullet. The Williamson Act requires participating jurisdictions to adopt uniform rules for how they're going to implement the program. And so, it's a requirement for those participating jurisdictions to have their adoption of those local rules. So whether or not it's we can just cover that in the talking points, or I don't know if we just.
I think I could fold something in a talking point back on history. I don't know if it would go here, because this is about,
I think that, what David is saying is maybe point out that the Board of Supervisors, they have the authority to make any changes. Like, the county adopted, and we can make our own uniform rules. Not, won't say it like that, but adopting the rules is.
yeah, I don't know if I'd put it under this slide, perhaps slide Williamson Act 101 or in History of Williamson Act. That's where I would put that. This is basically what the uniform rules are saying, as opposed to a bigger picture that the county adopted. I mean, I am going to say early on that the county adopted the program in 1967. I could say something, this is on the second slide, something like adopted own uniform rules, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if it may make sense, like you said, under the history section, maybe. to
Okay.
add.
Very good. I'll make a note of that. So I could say county adopted could you zip back to that? Sorry. Slide number 3, please. County adopted the program 1967. I could say adopted the program and uniform rules. 1967.
Yeah, and then you can say something, the uniform rules incorporate Williamson Act requirements as well as locally adopted regulations to implement the program.
Okay. Thank you. Very good. All right. It ties those two together nicely. Thank you for that comment. Very good. Any other comments on, we're back on 7. I added surveyor's office in there. Okay. Could we zip to slide 7, please? Not zip, but go to slide 7. Okay, not hearing any comments. I'm going to go to 8.
Oh,
Your question?
Yeah, I do have a question on.
Yes.
Under the roles and responsibilities, the second bullet, administer, monitor, and enforce. Does the APAC committee actually enforce?
Yes. That. I think it's under the APAC role.
I guess and I understand, and when we go through and ask people for eligibility, maybe I'm thinking in a broader sense, unless they come in for some
Well, yes, and we do say in the presentation that when we get into the enforcement section, that's a good point. We do say that we have I forgot the phrase, it's something like, it's not an active enforcement, it's a passive enforcement or something to that effect. But reactionary, that's what we said. Page 4, section 6 does state under role of APAC, it does say that in conjunction with these duties, APAC's responsible for monitoring and enforcement of the Ag Preserve program. So I left it blank because I think I originally had Ag Preserve program. Or then I may have had Williamson Act. I mean, I could put something at the end there after enforce, but we are enforcers of
right
the program.
Yeah, and I think you stated it there. It's when we don't go out and actively enforce all the contracts. It's only when
No,
they come to the-
but that will come up for
Okay.
sure. Well, I think the board will be asking questions about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, any other questions on that slide? 7? Okay, 8? Oh. Okay, and this is how Williamson Act properties are taxed, and thank you to Sergio. He and I worked quite a bit on this section.
Trying to make it simple enough
Yes,
to not attract
yes,
too many questions.
and yes,
But I'm expecting there will be questions about this.
there will be questions about numbers, I think, and how we were trying to make it concise, but not too much detail, and try not to use too many terms. Any thoughts?
Any questions?
Yeah.
I'm
Again,
assuming, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I have never known, I guess, or understood through all the years, how much does a landowner save by being in the Williamson Act? A percentage, is it 20 or 30%? Is there even a number to put on it?
Yeah,
No, there isn't, because everybody is different.
Okay,
Even, there are even contracts now, active contracts that do not get any benefit. Because their Proposition 13 may be the lowest of the three. If you look at the second to last bullet there, we look at the lowest of three values, and sometimes Proposition 13 is the lowest. And so there are contracts that may not even, they don't have any tax benefits. There's other benefits, but not monetary.
It's maybe good to have in our back pocket some examples. And I was thinking well, it was on our agenda earlier, but a high value product like cannabis or greenhouses, where the agricultural value that normally we'd be assessing on is a high value crop, and therefore, and if the landowner maybe is a new landowner, they don't have really a Prop 13, their current market valuation is probably similar to the market valuation. Are there maybe scenarios that would be good in case, just to
Yes.
give them an example in their back
I
pocket?
think so. I like the back pocket idea, and I was thinking the same thing. I have some notes about saying that, in fact, that question that you asked, Royce, I think we should say there really is no average. It's it's so specific to the property. But yeah, having some real life examples.
I can work on some real life examples and provide them to you.
Yeah,
So you can have them as like it's
yep,
discussed in a
yep.
back.
And even, depending upon if it comes up or not, I think another good anecdotal is that we often see landowners that do a landowner initiated non-renewal, they often come back to get under contract because they, recognize that it is a benefit of, from a financial standpoint. So that's not uncommon that we see that. So that might just be a good example, also an anecdote.
Yeah. Any other comments? I did want to ask, sorry, Sergio, I have to ask this. Under the second bullet, the reference to restricted areas and unrestricted areas, do we need to have that in there, or does that make it any more confusing? Hi, good morning.
Well, I would.
I know why it's there. Do you want to say why you think
I
it's
would
there?
defer
Okay.
to the other committee members. Is it confusing to you guys? Another way of saying this is the contracted areas. Well, not contracted areas.
I think, I'm speaking for you, but in my discussions with Sergio, I understand he is an expert in his field and he knows his subject matter very well. And he felt like this is something to keep in there because that's what they call it at the assessor's office. I'm just looking at it from somebody that, like this presentation, it's just more to explain. if it's in my mind, when you have a term, you need to kind of explain what that means.
Maybe if we introduced the fact that the Williamson Act is a restriction on properties, like at the very beginning of this presentation. If we explained that this program is actually a restriction, people don't see it as a restriction, but their properties are restricted when they enter into a contract.
Well, we say in Williamson Act Program 101, land conservation in exchange for property tax benefit. Perhaps we rephrase that to, or I say it in there somewhere. That would be the place.
Yeah, that would be a good place for that.
Okay.
Parentheses
You guys
or
think?
What's that?
how would you put that instead of
Um,
land conservation
in exchange for property tax.
restriction dash?
Is there restriction?
Dash restriction or
We
parentheses?
could just have a separate bullet that just says somewhere in here that restricts land use. Because that is a Williamson Act kind of a 101 topic, is it restricts, don't know if it's in here anywhere else, restricts land value, discourages urban growth, contributes economy, programs volunteer. Yeah, I don't know if we say that anywhere. The program restricts, how would you say that? Sergio?
They said that
Restricts land value, restricts.
Use, right?
What's that?
Use.
Use,
So-
okay.
So just in introduction on our uniform rules, it says whereby land is enforceably restricted to ag, open space, recreational uses in exchange for reduced property tax assessments. And so that's kind of a layperson, I mean, has, you know, your
How about we just,
restricting the land use for ag, open space, recreation.
Okay.
In exchange, the landowner gets a reduced property tax assessment.
what if we said at the very top, is, I'm sorry, can you go to slide 5, please? So let's say in the very top, it says land conservation in exchange for property tax benefit. What if we said land restriction?
That would be
Should be-
clearer.
Think it'd be clearer
It should
as
be.
we get into
Be
conservation.
use, word use. Restricted use or restriction. That's why.
Land use restriction
Yeah,
in exchange for property tax benefit.
probably.
Okay.
Would be more clear. I don't know.
Any thoughts?
Uh,
Tyler? He's like, I really don't
land use
care, but
restriction.
land use restriction. Okay. What do you think? Go with it? Okay. Thank you for that comment. So back to slide 8. Can we, what do you think? Strike restricted and unrestricted?
So maybe a question for Sergio. And I've also heard like preferential assessment or whatever, but so maybe to make a distinction, because you only highlight personal use as one example of the unrestricted. But isn't it true that like others, even like ag supports, the structures themselves are assessed differently, and those aren't personal use necessarily, so to make us, so maybe it's just, so the preferential assessment is on the agricultural commodity value.
Yes.
And all other uses like buildings, structures, personal houses, farm buildings, whatever, are assessed at their Prop 13 or market rate or
You
whatever.
got it. David.
Yeah,
I
we-
think that's what, yeah, you're right.
Maybe
We
just
struggle a lot with that,
those in two
to
different-
put non-ag or to put personal. So should we put non-ag, do you think?
I think by first bucket is really just, thing that gets the preferential assessment is ag commodity. It's
The land.
cows, it's whatever you're growing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then everything else is in this bucket, and it's a mix of personal uses and other structures.
Structure.
So would it be ag areas and you strike restricted areas? So say ag areas assigned an agricultural value. Other areas other areas assigned or non-ag areas.
That's what, it took us a
Goes back to
while.
that.
It goes back to our,
But I guess because you guys chose ag areas, and in my mind, I was thinking like agricultural commodity. And so, and then parenthetical, you could say it, it might be land or crop.
right, but it's, okay, well, yeah.
So
So it could be
commer-
grazing land, or
land
it could
and a
be,
crop.
yeah.
And it could be, vineyard.
Crop and grazing
Right.
land
Just give
assigned
some
an ag
examples,
value.
and then the next bucket is basically everything else. It could be like buildings, houses.
Why don't we do that first bullet there underneath ag areas and personal use areas? We just say, areas are assessed differently, or land is assessed differently or something. And then the first one, we could say crop and grazing areas assigned an ag value. And then other areas assigned a Prop 13 values. I think I understand. Or we could say crop and grazing areas assigned an ag value, and then non-ag assigned a prop. Starting with this.
Yeah. I'll let you guys massage it. I mean, I think you guys
I
kind
like
of
the
are.
way you put it, David.
I like the
If
crop
there's a,
grazing. I like that a lot.
yeah,
That's
the,
very clear.
um,
Maybe you
commodity-
maybe just
commodity
have,
and-
maybe just start off, you could say that they're assessed differently. And then the next bullet is for the, preferential assessment. This is for the ag crops and grazing land or commodities. And then the next bullet is, the Prop 13 or market value. This is for everything else. It's structures, non-ag land.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so,
think I got it. I think we do, sorry, I think I heard clearly. I heard
okay.
first bullet would say assessed annually. The second bullet's going to say areas are something assessed differently or preferential.
Whatever, yeah. And that,
Okay, so I'm going to say the bullet under it.
I thought the title, the second bullet, David, you want it to remain the way it is. And then when you go to the sub bullet, that's the one you're saying.
sure, you can do that. Like the first bullet is maybe this is what gets the preferred assessment, or whatever the term you want to, I was going to lead, just in my mind, I've heard the term preferential assessment,
Preferential.
and then just in parenthetically say ag commodity, grazing land, crops. And then the next bullet is, it's the Prop 13 or market value, and it's basically everything else. Parenthetically, structures, personal, house, farm buildings. That's just
Okay, I think we can work on this.
I think I got it.
Okay,
David.
good.
Yeah,
Okay, and my thought is to not come back. So if we need to hash it out now, let's do that. But otherwise, I haven't said that, but I was hoping to get this
Oh, on the slide, but you want to
Yes.
come back for the talking points. You said-
right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but the slides, I was hoping to not come back.
And I wouldn't change anything in the slide. I mean,
Just say it different.
uh,
I was just trying to get, I think what we could,
the value of presentation is, to leave this for them to see on the screen, and then you say what you want to say.
and
Uh,
we-
Instead of trying to create a slide that explains everything.
oh, okay.
Uh,
You're saying leave it. I think the part I wanted to get rid of at least was the restricted areas and unrestricted areas.
Now you define it in the
it's
slide
already been this.
5.
Yeah.
right? So now you can
Okay.
catch on that.
Okay. I think I understand what to change. I'll move on. Great. 9. Again, I think we're going to get a lot of questions about this. The graph.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I-
But again, we'll talk about that in
think
our
so.
notes. Yeah, I think we'll get some questions about this.
So one question,
Any comments on this one?
I guess my comment is it's in the right location.
Slide, you mean this slide?
Should the annual question be under and after the section when you start to talk about compliance.
Okay, let's go through, we could talk about, let's see if we could get through the slides and then we'll go through order. Is that possible?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I have another suggestion on.
Okay.
order. Okay.
Any comments on this slide? Nope. Next slide.
If you guys think of a question, let me know, because if you guys have a question on
Yeah.
those two, I would like to hear the questions now. So
Yes. Any questions on the slide before this one? You were kind of raising your hand, Royce?
Yeah, and I don't know if this applies, but one of the things happening more and more on rangelands at least are conservation easements where the land
Mm,
sell the rights for development, which I understand reduces the value of the land, hence the taxes. Does that fit into this in any way, or is that something we don't even need to worry about?
And are you referring to this slide or the previous slide or just in general?
In general, but the previous and about
Yes.
the lowest value of the property.
Royce, conservation easements are a separate, totally separate topic.
Right.
They're not part of the Williamson Act. But you are right. They are treated, they can be treated the same. The value is calculated exactly the same as we calculate these values. But conservation easements, this is one of the reasons I changed the acreage, because originally I was giving you the acreage including conservation easements. We don't, it's not part of the Williamson Act program.
Okay,
So for this reason, we took them out from
okay,
this presentation. And they're a little more complicated because they have to meet some requirements before we can treat them the same as ag preserves in
Okay.
terms of valuation. Yeah, not all conservation easements get preferential assessment, is what I'm trying to say.
Good question. Thanks for asking that. Any comments on this slide?
So under non-renewal, I would move landowner initiated or county initiated as the second bullet. I think that's relevant. What do you mean by no, and then the current second bullet, no findings? I think that's confusing.
Well, I was trying to make them, first of all, like the order the same. So like non-renewal, the first bullet address, well, preferred method, and there's no findings need to be made. And then like, for example, cancellation, I was trying to go about them methodically because like the second bullet is also addresses findings. The third bullet for both addresses taxes.
Maybe,
Fourth, that's how I was thinking about that.
maybe if it's worded this kind of the same as under cancellation, maybe you can say board does not make findings. And then now it makes sense. I don't know.
No findings required, meaning it's just you can go ahead and get a non-renewal. There's no,
No
Well, I
findings.
mean, that's
get
on the
involved.
landowner side, but if it's county initiated, we have to demonstrate they're in non-compliance and the board, that's part of the board's.
yeah, good
the
point.
Non-renewal. And so
Okay,
maybe just under non-renewal, just leave that one blank, just take no findings off. I think it confuses it more than anything. Keep the rest of the order.
okay.
We differentiate anywhere, county initiated, owner initiated, no?
Yeah, it says lander initiated or county initiated.
That's the bullet that David suggested to move to the second.
Yeah,
I would actually even say go to the
First.
first, but
I would put it under second. That makes sense. Because the Williamson Act's the larger. When would it apply? 9-year process, gradual tax effect. We went with tax effect as opposed to tax break or, so no fee. There's not a fee, right? If the county, no, okay.
But with that, this is probably a back pocket information for P&D to come up with? Because when you say no fee under non-renewal,
Yeah, but how much does it cost?
how much does it cost the
Yeah,
county to
no,
do
and
that?
that's something that
Yeah,
Lisa commented on
Right.
and is actually in their non-renewal letter, board letter, I noticed.
Oh, I think I saw that,
Yes.
yeah, in the fiscal section. They've been doing
Yep.
that, so.
So I can definitely make a note of that, but no fee for landowner? No landowner fee? Maybe say that because the 12.5% is a landowner fee.
That for cancellation is, yeah, I mean.
I'll
it's
put
a
no
cancellation.
landowner fee. Maybe that might be.
Sure.
Okay.
'Cause they still are likely to answer with the cost for the, you know, to the
Yep.
county, so.
I'll put notes. Okay.
Did you guys, are you comfortable with the heading title of this slide? I mean, it's,
Not, go ahead.
I don't know if you had any alternatives. I mean, it is
No,
what it is.
Go ahead.
I just don't, no, I don't have a suggestion. I guess it's okay. It's fine.
Next comment or next slide. 11, compliance and enforcement. I broke it out into two sections, compliance and enforcement under bold. We went over this quite a bit. I think we did, Sergio, over the non-compliances are found. Originally, we had, I think under the first bullet, there's APAC review. Originally, we talked about having something in there about assessor. What did we have in there? Something about assessors noticing when there was a lot split or change in ownership. I think we had recorded changes in
We
ownership.
put it under the second bullet,
Okay,
recorded changes in ownership.
okay.
We were, yeah, I think what we were debating is whether to include recorded changes in ownership that split the contract
Okay.
or changes in ownership of a portion of the contract.
Yeah, like maybe we had lot line adjustment in there. Okay, but any comments about this? Second bullet down. Is that what you're? There it is, and that does reference current program is reactive. That was a suggested language as
Yeah.
opposed to passive or something else that we had in there.
Yeah. Regarding Roy's question about.
Yes, yes. And I was also looking in the uniform rules, they do mention if you've already are under contract, it's kind of, we talked about contracted law, should we put that in there or not? There is a reference, page, actually under rescission, no. It's under monitoring and enforcement termination. They do reference court action. Yeah, for those contracts already in non-renewal, there is court action. We left that off, but I can put it back if you guys think. we should.
What was your thoughts under no replacement contract? Not I don't think it's intuitive to them.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first time replacement contract comes up?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
so
so. We were talking about,
I
when
think,
they're supposed to replace the contract, but they don't ever replace it as part of a lot line adjustment requirement.
And maybe it's fine. It's just, I think it's going to need some talking point context. You know, it's almost like you could say, an example, you know, anytime the contract boundaries change, you need to get a replacement contract. You know, if a parcel is sold off to another property or a lot line adjustment, those are examples of when the contract boundary has changed and you need to get a replacement contract. something, I mean, just, I guess it all just depends. If we can give them a couple of examples.
Yes, no, I agree. And I'm going to make a note of that because I think it's the first time it comes up. Any other comments? Okay, next slide. Please. Oh, this one. Okay. So I have a suggestion. Let's, can we move to the next slide and then we'll double back on David's suggested slide. So this is the trend for non-renewals. You can move that up a little bit. Yeah, showing the title. There you go. And we talked about in the notes, there'll be a description of, there's a gap there for 2021. Or county initiated. We can put that in the notes. Okay, not hearing any comments. Next slide, please. This slide, we reworked this one. This, I believe, is the last slide. Essentially, we struck all the reference to any anybody's name, or it was the previous, these are the ones that were considered in October by the board. It was a way to summarize maybe the reason for non-renewal. This was a recommendation from the director of planning. I think I captured what she's looking for, but we'll see when we get comments back. Slide.
I guess my only comment, it looks like this is a cut and paste table. and-
Yeah.
And the fonts and the clarity is different, so you might want to just recreate
Okay.
it as a table in PowerPoint.
Okay. So the font matches and
Right, and just the crispness of the font looks
different.
different.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments about this one? Last slide is just a thank you slide. I could say questions, or I don't know what's,
No questions.
yeah, okay, thank
Thank you.
you. Okay.
That's all.
Very good.
Thank you and goodbye.
The mic.
Thank you and
I was gonna put a little icon going like this. Okay, so let's double back to David's slide. He reworked and provided it to us. And this is and once we get through this slide, then we'll go through the order. Okay, thank you. I'm passing these along. What's that?
Oh, that's okay. Just public in case, they're interested.
Okay, and I'm going to pause momentarily. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Close public comment. Okay, any comments on this?
my only comment is, I guess, Madam Chair, you're gonna make this
Yeah,
the same.
yeah, I'll fold it into our existing template. Instead of dashes, you bullets, so it's consistent, same font and everything, yeah.
I do have a question on this, and maybe it's irrelevant, but if a non-renewal is found or reason found, and it goes on through and it gets recorded, and then there's 9 full years of contract remaining. If the reason that it's non-renewed still exists, nothing is done. Is that correct? I mean, they just.
Yes. Yep. I did, where that, Sergio and I talked about that. That is, that concept, because that was in the original list of topics, to ensure that we clarify to the board that I think it's under enforcement and compliance. Maybe it's just the notes, that the fact that if non-renewal, maybe it's under enforcement. County initiated non-renewal of a non-compliant contract. Are you thinking, just make the board aware that, that they need to still maintain eligibility if they're a non-renewal? Is that what you're,
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because if they're being non-renewed because they're not eligible, but no
yeah,
action they're ever taken that I'm aware of.
yeah, maybe that's just a note that we state in the presentation, something to address.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably good to, even, state that, they're required to be in compliance with the contract is still in effect. So even in non-renewal, they have to be in compliance. It's a nuanced, if the conversations go down, there's obviously, depends what they're in non-compliance for. We can't make them plant something if they didn't plant it, But we still, if there's development applications for entitlements during that 9 years, they're going to be reviewed and they need to be complied. And so depending upon what it is, they may or may not get approval for that use.
Okay.
Certain things, the county can't.
Suggestion is maybe to, instead of having the 9 full years of contract remain in parentheses, make that a third sub bullet, and then maybe add to that 9 full years of compliance. I don't know. Still remain, something like that. My suggestion.
Right, and because they could also decide, rather than focus on the compliance, they may ask a question about what happens to the taxes, and so that might be just a follow-up question as, that they gradually, in the first couple of years is the biggest change, and they start to approach whatever the Prop 13 or market value.
Yeah, and if we put it in the slide, if anything, I would put it under, or talk about it under the compliance and enforcement. That would be a good spot for that earlier on. Just say count, because we say right there under enforcement, county's program is reactive. County initiated non-renewal of non-compliant contract still in effect. Yeah. I like the, do you think maybe instead of the parentheses, just put it a separate line, 9 full years of contract remain?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because that could, like I said, it could be a springboard for a question either on the taxes
Yeah.
or on the compliance.
Right.
Leave it up to them if they have follow-up questions.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments on this slide? Okay. Great. So, Teresa, could you pull up the PowerPoint, just do the slide sorter view? Yeah. Not this
For the
one,
main.
but yeah, for the main one, yeah. Oh, I did.
Or just go back to
Okay.
the first slide. Or the order, you mean?
Yeah, I just wanted to see what the order of the slides are if, yeah. So not the overview, but I wanted to do the overview after we do the slide sorting, because I heard people say, let's move this slide to over here and, okay. That's fine. Yeah, we could still do it this way. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can we go to the, also, can we go to the contents, the presentation overview?
Yeah,
Second
slide 2.
page.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. We didn't discuss this one.
No, and I was thinking we would do it after we sort the slides, but we
Okay.
can do it now if you guys want. I just thought if we're going to be moving slides around.
Right. Okay, well, I can start with my suggestions.
Okay?
I think that we're missing a bullet. So it would be history is the first bullet, history of the Williamson Act. The second bullet should be Williamson Act program and in quotation marks 101. So that's this, that would be the second bullet. So Williamson Act program 101. The third bullet, uniform rules and requirements, shouldn't have the 101 because on the title of that slide, we don't have that. We don't say 101. It's just uniform rules and requirements. So strike 101. And then
And I just, one thing I wanted to mention, I was not, I don't want to create any confusion. There's a lot of terms with Ag Preserve Program, Williamson Act. So what I did, if you, Teresa, jump down to the next slide, I put down history of the Williamson Act. Go down to the next slide, please. Next one. That's county under the Ag Preserve contract, under contract. Williamson Act program, keep going. Then here I just said uniform rules and program requirements, because you don't, I could see somebody getting confused and saying, oh, well, what's the difference between the Williamson Act program and the Ag Preserve program? And we kind of use the terms interchangeably. So I just wanted to point that out. I left it as program. Okay.
that makes sense.
All right. So let's go back up to 2.
Yep. So then, as you can see, then the first comes the Williamson Act Program 101.
Uh-huh.
Second comes uniform rules and program requirements.
Hmm.
So that would be the third
Okay.
bullet.
Yep.
And then my last suggestion is that we switch if we're gonna keep the compliance and enforcement first and non-renewal process in that order, then we need to switch the slides. I think it's slides 11 and 10. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So
So 10, slide on page 10 is, actually, no, that's how you get.
I didn't do a bullet per each slide. I was clumping them
Oh,
together.
I see.
So
I see.
I did, I first talked about compliance and enforcement, and then I'd get into the non-renewal. And I did that because I thought compliance and enforcement, we first talk about, and in enforcement, we end that slide with, that's slide 11. We talk about non-renewal as a
I see.
enforcement tool,
Now I
and
see.
then that flows into David's slide, which was,
I think,
what are the steps for initiating county-initiated non-renewal?
right. I think what threw me off was, yeah, the way that you skipped.
Yeah,
it
I
out of-
originally had a bullet point per slide, but it was too
Oh, the,
too much material, so
It's kind of boring too.
yeah.
but that's the only one you're missing.
Do we even need the
That's the only point.
presentation overview? That's another.
I looked at different slides, and I think usually P and D has an overview.
Okay.
It's kind of classic presentation. You tell
Yeah.
them what you're going to say, you say it, and you tell them again,
Yeah, looks
Okay.
fine.
Could strike it if, I'd
Oh, no,
rather
no.
keep it and see it
Yeah,
directly
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to strike.
Yeah,
it.
but you don't need to stick to each slide,
Yeah.
right?
I agree.
So going with that, back to my original question where we have annual questionnaire above and separate from compliance and enforcement.
Yeah.
Although when we talk about compliance and enforcement, that's one of our tools for compliance. And so my thought was, shouldn't that be under a slide that follows after the main initial compliance and enforcement?
Well, we don't talk about the questionnaire per se under compliance and enforcement, but we do talk about it when we discuss how the taxes are determined,
Yeah.
because we do talk about, where is it? Yeah, the third bullet, values determined using the annual questionnaire and research. And then that's why I included it after that one.
Okay. Now that I'm looking at, so slide 11 is the compliance and enforcement. We, under compliant, non-compliances are found during. We have APEC review, recorded changes in ownership. Would we want to add third bullet? Not your failure to submit annual questionnaire.
We discussed it. Stephanie asked exactly the same question. We're not there yet. We haven't been doing this. We haven't officially said, okay, we're gonna,
Solely for that, we haven't recommended.
we
no.
haven't recommended, yeah.
But we kind of,
I think we keep that in our head.
we're,
as-
we're nudging them that we're not.
We're
gonna get
nudging
that.
them,
So
we're,
it-
we're,
yeah, so it's a soft
we're hinting that this is what we want.
versus what Ventura
Versus-
County did is the board gave them authorization.
Exactly, exactly.
And then my last comment, in terms of the flow, so this is on slide 10, how do you get out of the Williams Neck contract? How in the flow should that fit when
Can you
we
pull up that
roll out
slide
non-renewal
10,
process?
please?
And yes, David, I was thinking of the exactly the same thing. Maybe that slide, like number 10, should go after compliance and enforcement. Because here on slide 10, how do you get out of Williamson Act? We discussed the non-renewal and the cancellation. It would flow a little better if
That
for
could,
that we
that
go
could
into,
precede the steps for county initiated non-renewals.
right.
That makes sense.
So
Maybe move 10 down in front of 12, so it'd be the new 11.
make 10, 11, and 11, 10.
I agree.
10 becomes 11. And 11 changes to 10.
Thank you. Any other comments on slide, the flow, order? Okay, very good. Comments? I think we're good. Terrific. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to make those final changes to the slides. And then I'm going to send this to the, it'll go to the 3 directors currently. That's who I've got on my list, is planning director, ag department, and then it's Michael Daly, he's the
He's the chief assessor.
chief assessor. Okay.
Chief assessor.
That'll go next. I've already sent the board letter to them. I've gotten comments back from Michael already. And hopefully I'll get them back from Lisa shortly. I've also heard from our director. He had some comments as well. Incorporated those, so we're in a good spot ahead of time. I also think we should set right now our next meeting, special meeting for making the notes.
Talking.
Yes.
Sure.
And let's go ahead and do that if we can.
So Teresa, are there some Thursdays where this room is available?
For this month or February or March?
I guess before our next regular meeting.
Yeah, and I'm going to be unavailable until the 24th. I'll look at my schedule though.
So maybe the 27th, that's a Thursday.
Were you thinking afternoon or morning? We have appeals, the assessment appeals on the 27th.
Not available.
And could we meet at the Ag Commissioner's office? Is that possible? It's a public meeting space. Yep. Yep.
That,
Uh-huh, it's in, by EU, the public meeting space. What?
Del Remedio.
Mino Del Remedio. And we also have the ability to meet remotely, because there's a big TV screen there. These conference chairs,
Max?
snacks. Is that a good, if that's a good time,
Never been there before. So
okay? Very good.
What day and time were you suggesting? Or that's,
whenever we choose.
That was Thursday, we talked about the last week in
so when is your
February.
appeals, Sergio, in the morning?
The 27 in the morning, 9 to noon.
Are you available, Tyler? I didn't even,
Oh,
sorry, when were the appeals?
The 27th.
All day? Oh, could be all day. Okay, then I would offer up, I'm available to meet the 26th and the 28th and the 25th.
not available the 26th. I've got planning commission. I'm available the 28th or the 25th.
Okay, 28th, anybody? Sorry, it's a Friday. I know that there's 90
28th
days.
would work for me.
It would work for you?
Yeah, but it would have to be Zoom.
Yes, we can, I think, well. Is that okay? I know there's only you get 2 a year or something, these,
These are the
okay,
medical reasons for my wife, so.
yes, so no problem. We can accommodate that,
Okay.
Royce. Anyone else, 28th?
Good.
Afternoon, better?
I have my North Board of Architectural review that day, so
Okay,
in the
Uh,
afternoon, you said?
yes,
Oh, in the afternoon, I should be able to come over here, yes.
okay.
Be fine.
It's a little bit longer drive. Would that be here or would that be ag department? Okay,
So do we want to maybe give a little lead, like maybe 2 o'clock? Does that?
yeah, let's do 2 to 4.
Yeah, because my NBAR will be done early. I'm usually done by 10, so.
Driving time, I don't know what time you get off work, but we could do 2 to 4 or 1:30 to 3:30.
30?
1:30.
Let's do 1:30. Great. That's Friday, the 28th. 1:30 to 3:30. And what we're going to focus on is not the content of the presentation at this point, like the slides themselves, but the notes section. And I think at that time, we should also maybe consider doing a dry run or something in a future date, preparation of the hearing. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay? Very good.
And it's gonna be here or?
No, Ag
Ag
Commissioner's
Committee,
Office,
oh.
263 Camino del Remedio. I'll reserve the room when we can accommodate Royce remotely as well.
Lay out some breadcrumbs so we can find our way in.
Yes,
into
it's
that
right across from the
foreign
EU.
land.
You can't miss it. It's very easy. It's, if you know where the EU is, it's right in that parking lot. But I could provide you with a, Teresa, a little map. 1:30, 3:30. And you'll send a meeting request out. Thank you.
So yeah, you'll send the.
Great. Okay, terrific. Last item, wanted to mention, we have, APEC. Reports of committee members. I had 2 things. One, I wanted to mention, I have, 4 different, letters that are going to be going out to landowners. Wanted to put that on the April agenda. Those letters are going to be going out shortly. They are cases that Sergio has brought to my attention, and they are all change in ownership. So
Those are notices to appear that you're sending?
yes, they're all notices to appear. Yeah, they're not 60-day letters. Yes. Okay. And I will, when I get those letters out, I will put them in the box and then let you all know, and I'll make sure they're in the agenda for that month, April 10th. Okay, I had one more item too. So, in the past, I forgot about this one. Yes, this is, I put this in our list of items. I was contacted by the County of Solano. They are doing some kind of Williamson Act survey research. They sent this out and they sent it out on the 13th, and it was a quick turnaround time. I did not have time to bring it to the committee, but I answered their questions pretty straightforward manner. Sorry, the way this was formatted and came out is kind of clunky, but they asked a series of questions, and what I asked was if I could get a copy of the survey results, share it with my committee, and also they are going to let me know when it is on their Board of Supervisors agenda. So I don't know anything else other than this was a survey. They are probably doing some kind of assessment for their Williamson Act program for Solano County. And I don't believe they're part of that land use group, right? They're different. We have the land use roundtable group where we have some committee members.
Yeah,
Yeah,
too far north.
yeah, Solano. I could reach out. I think I know the assistant commissioner. She used to work in San Diego County, and I think I could reach out to her and find out what their issues are. Perhaps might be of interest to us, if that's something the committee would like.
Yeah, I mean, if they have any more details and they're seeking some input.
Yeah, she will let us know. The person, Rosetta, who sent this to us, I asked for a copy of when they have a meeting date set. They have a pending date.
I'm wondering if they're doing what we're doing, like looking for ways to enforce maybe the program.
Yeah.
Not that we know for sure that that's what we're doing, but
Mm.
it sounds like that's where their question is going.
Yeah, they're conducting an internal control review of Solano County's Williamson Act program.
Mhm.
So they were doing a benchmark survey for best practices for the Williamson Act. And they're doing a final audit report.
Isn't Solano County that where was tech billionaires bought up all that land, 10,000 acres, want to do this new town? Was that Solano County?
I don't know. Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of like
oh, okay.
the Delta area.
Delta, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Okay. I had one more item. In the past, we have talked about processes and improvements perhaps to the committee and how we administer the program. I wanted to talk with the committee about the concept of the chairmanship. And I would like to discuss at our next meeting and put it on the agenda to discuss and consider possible rotation of the chairpersonship. So for many, many, many years, it's always been the Agriculture Commissioner's Office that has chaired this committee. However, in some research that we've done in our department, it is not required. And so I wanted to put that forth as a discussion with the committee.
So my comments are, I mean, I certainly comment. I think is a higher level discussion than our
Mhm.
committee. And unless we get direction from them, I think, I don't know. I would be hesitant to go that direction until we had some guidance from department heads that.
And we did, yes. It was directed, my director spoke with the planning director, and it was directed that we are to discuss it as a group and have it go to a vote.
Okay.
Yep, thanks for that point of clarification.
You contemplating the rotation for all the?
Yes,
the
that's one
members?
idea and one,
In that case, my director should be
yes.
aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the rotation between PND and the Ag Commissioner's office only, but if there's other suggestions, yeah, but my director should be.
So how I would suggest that you speak with your director directly, your representative for your department. But it was asked that I put this item on the agenda specifically.
My chief.
Okay, very good. Anything else, Tyler, with that regard? Okay. Yes. Okay. And so, Teresa, we would put that on as, not as a discussion item, but as an action item. Yes, for the March meeting.
Great. My chief assessor plans to be here in
Okay,
March.
very good.
One last, my monthly report on recorded Williamson Act documents. There were no documents recorded in the month of January, so no activity in February. We're still in
We're still in February.
January. Yeah, there was nothing recorded last month. Let's just say it that way.
I just have a minor report and to thank Sergio. So we had we received a request. So our directors, part of a group of other directors where they, frequently ask each other, how do you guys do this? And so one of the questions related to Williamson Act, where I think it was Lassen County had talked about what are counties doing when, and it kind of relates to Royce's earlier comment about conservation easements in terms of if a conservation easement is proposed to be recorded on an existing ag preserve contract, what do they do? And Lassen said that they non-renew the ag preserve contract because of potential, they use double dipping of tax benefit. Anyhow, so I reached out to Sergio and he did some research and provided some good information that we're able to get back to them. And I'll paraphrase, but I think, and Sergio can correct me. The short answer is we don't non-renew, if we have an existing ag preserve contract and they seek to apply a conservation easement, we don't non-renew them for a couple of reasons. But going back, so under the Revenue and Taxation Code, there's two ways you can value, I guess, conservation easements. And so one of there has criteria if you qualify as an agricultural conservation easement, if you meet that criteria, then I think is under section 423, you can get the same benefit valuation as a Williamson Act contract. And so in those cases, and then the process, I guess, the county is required to review and determine whether or not it meets that criteria. And so the process is the land trust or the landowner would send that conservation easement to the county to be reviewed. Council weighs in on their recommendation if it meets the criteria. And then if it does, then they could record that and get valued. But there wouldn't be any double dipping because they're going to receive the same valuation as they are currently based on the ag valuation in Prop 13. I think that was it. Was there anything else I missed? And then there's some other conservation easements that don't qualify. And so, but even in those circumstances, the uniform rule requirements are still in place. And so they're, in most instances where there's a conservation easement proposed, whether it qualifies as ag conservation or not, county doesn't, for the ones that don't, we just don't take any action on it. And the ones that do qualify, they're getting the same benefits, and we don't non-renew them. There isn't any violation of the contract.
So if there's already an ag preserve, a Williamson Act contract on a property where they're now recording a conservation easement on, we keep the Williamson Act contract mapped, and we have that as being the primary kind of contract. and the conservation easement is on the side. And we just continue to value those properties under section 423, which is, you know, the restricted, the same formula as Williamson Act. If a conservation easement is recorded on a property that wasn't under Williamson Act before, then yeah, we map it. We give it a contract number. Some of those are, you know, you have them, we have them on our system, and those were the ones that I excluded from the totals, because those are separate. They don't have a Williamson Act contract on those properties, but they are treated the same, get the same valuation as Williamson Act. So yeah, everything you said is correct. So we send almost all of those documents to county council, because to determine if they meet all the requirements gets a little complicated. So we send them to the assessor council, which is Mike Munoz. Yeah, and he gets those and he makes those determinations for us. Great, yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? All right, meeting's adjourned at 11:14 a.m. Or, yeah, a.m. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, see
Thank
you.
you. Hi, Rose.
See you in late February.
Hi.
Bye.